Steven with Parts Doctor. I'm going to show you how to replace the drum felt gasket on the Samsung dryer. The tools needed are listed in the description below. Let's get started. On the dryer, there are two gaskets that serve a couple of purposes. They help hold the heat inside the dryer, act as sort of a bushing for the drum to rotate against, and help prevent clothing from getting trapped between the drum and the body of the dryer. If a gasket is torn or ripped, your dryer may not heat properly, or your clothing may become snagged as the drum rotates. Before starting, we'll need two parts for this repair: a new gasket and high temperature adhesive to glue the new gasket in place. If you plan on replacing both gaskets, you need to order two separate gaskets as they are sold individually. These parts can be purchased at our website, partsdoctor.com. We'll leave a link in the description below. You want to make sure you're searching with the model number from the tag on your dryer to make sure you get the correct part. For this repair, unplug or disconnect power to the dryer. With access to the back of the dryer, remove these two Phillips screws. Next, place your foot at the bottom of the dryer, place your hands on the top, and pull towards you until the top cover releases. This may require some force. Now, remove these four Phillips screws. Next, gently lift up on the control panel to release it, then tilt forward, being careful as it's still connected by wires. Then, remove the two electrical connectors by depressing the locking tab, gently wiggling until it releases, and remove the wires from the retainers. Once the wires are removed, you can separate the control panel from the chassis. Next, remove these two Phillips screws to remove the door. Then, firmly grasp the door and lift up and out to remove. Now, remove these four screws. Next, remove these two Phillips screws beneath the door opening. Now, lift up on the panel to release it from these two retaining tabs, being careful as it's still connected to the door switch wire. Be careful as you'll be working around sharp edges. Disconnect the wire by wiggling and pulling until it releases. Then, lift up on the panel assembly to release it from the chassis. Now, remove the lint filter by grabbing and lifting up. Next, disconnect the moisture sensor wiring harness by depressing the locking tab and fish the drum light wire through the opening. Then, remove the three screws on the lint duct and pull out and down to remove. Now, remove the four screws on the front drum assembly. Then, lift up on the left side pivot out to release the locking tabs from the slots, and lift up on the right side to remove the assembly. Pull the bottom towards you, being careful as it's still connected by a wire. Then remove the wire from the retainer. Next, remove the screws on the upper frame plate. Then fish the wiring harness through the opening. Now remove the frame plate by pulling towards you and lifting up. After locating the idler pulley, carefully slide your arm in. Then press the idler pulley to the left side of the dryer to release tension on the belt, and carefully slide the belt off the drive motor and idler pulley. Next, lift up on the front of the drum and slide the belt off. Before pulling the drum, make note of what way the baffles are facing. With a baffle positioned at the bottom, the notch side faces right. You will need to position the drum the same direction when installing. Now, lift the drum off the rear rollers and remove from the dryer. With the drum removed, set it on its end to give you access to the bad gasket. Then, using a sharp blade or putty knife, get underneath the glued portion of the gasket and separate it from the drum. Work your way around until the gasket is removed. Now, clean up the edge of the drum using a putty knife to remove the old adhesive. It is okay if there is still some glue left on the drum. Just make sure there are no large chunks of gasket or glue still attached. When opening the new gasket, it is important to open the package carefully. If you accidentally ordered the wrong gasket, it can only be returned if it is sent back inside undamaged factory packaging. Next, unfold the gasket and find the stitched black material. This black portion is sized to fit snug around the dryer drum. It is also the piece that will be glued to the drum. Then, separate the black strip from the gray felt portion of the gasket. Use your finger to fold the felt away to expose the flap between the two portions of the gasket. In some cases, like on ours, there may be residue or adhesive holding the two portions together. You may need to use a putty knife to help separate. Be careful not to damage the gasket. With the black portion of the gasket facing outward, fit the gasket around the lip of the drum to ensure it fits properly. You may need to utilize the clamps to help hold the gasket in place. Also, this may take a while and be very frustrating. With the gasket in place, reposition the clamps to be at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. We will be applying adhesive in quarter sections at a time between 12 and 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, and 9 to 12. After applying the glue, wait 60 seconds before applying the gasket and moving to the next section. Reposition the clamp at the 12 o'clock position to 11. And carefully slide a portion of the gasket back to access the side of the drum. You may want to wear a pair of gloves when applying the adhesive. Make sure not to get any glue on the gray portion of the gasket. Apply a small strip of adhesive at 12 o'clock along the outside of the drum. Wait 60 seconds, realign the gasket, and apply pressure. The glue may drip or run while applying. If this happens, make sure to wipe it off as it may cause the drum to bounce or vibrate as it passes over the drum rollers. Continue to work your way around to the 3 o'clock position. You may want to set something underneath the drum in case any adhesive spills to the floor. Then, shift the clamp at the 3 o'clock position over to where the glue ended. Repeat the process between 3 to 6, 6 to 9, and 9 to 12. Now, check to ensure the gasket is still properly aligned and seated. After allowing the adhesive to cure for 24 hours, remove the clamps and any excess glue that may still be on the drum. To install the drum, you'll need to make sure to position it so it sits on top of the rear drum rollers. To install the belt, lift up on the front of the drum, slide it over, and gently work the belt to the center of the drum. It is very important to make sure the belt is not twisted. Next, reach inside the dryer and place the belt over the drive motor and beneath the idler pulley. This may be tricky as you need to guide the belt in place by touch as it's difficult to see. With the belt back on the motor and idler pulley, it should rotate when you rotate the drum. Only rotate the drum clockwise. Spinning the drum the wrong direction may cause the belt to come loose from the motor or idler pulley. Now, install the upper frame plate by aligning the tabs on the left and right side, inserting and pulling the main body to align until it seats back in place. Then, reinstall the 5 screws. Then, fish the wiring harness through the opening. And reinstall the harness into the retainer. Next, place the door switch wire back into the retainer. Insert the top of the front assembly and align the retaining tabs on the sides. You may need to raise the drum for the rollers to seat properly under the drum and allow the tabs to seat in place. Now, reinstall the 4 screws. Next, install the lint duct. Followed by the screws. Now, reconnect the moisture sensor wiring harness by aligning and pushing until it snaps in place, and rerun the drum light wire through the opening and retainer. Then, reinstall the lint filter. To install the front panel, start by aligning the slots on the panel with the tabs on the chassis. Then, tilt the panel up and reinstall the door switch wire by aligning and pushing until it seats back in place. Make sure the wires don't get pinched between the front panel and chassis. Then, push the panel until it seats back in place. Then, reinstall the 6 screws. With the hinge swung outward, we'll first need to start by aligning this screw with this opening and set the door in place. Then, reinstall the 2 screws. To install the control panel, start by inserting the tabs on the panel into the openings on the chassis. Now, reconnect the 2 electrical connectors by aligning, pushing till they snap in place, and reinstall the wires into the retainers. Then tilt the control panel back in place and reinstall the 4 screws. To reinstall the top cover, make sure the rear of it, which is noted by the gray pieces, is facing the rear of the dryer. Align the top cover guides to the opening in the top cover. Continue to push forward until it locks back in place. Next, reinstall the 2 screws. With everything put back together, plug the dryer in, test it out, make sure everything's working properly. So that's it for this video. If you learned something new, hit that like button. And if you enjoy fixing things, please consider subscribing.